In this LEGO City update, we're going to continue working on the countryside, specifically right here where we've got the low ground with the A-frame cabin. Next to that, we've got some high ground, and that has a nice river flowing underneath this truss bridge, and more high ground over here with the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs cottage, a nice looking pond, the treehouse, and also Winnie the Pooh, and that sits in front of the airstrip. Doesn't really make sense that we have this valley right here, and as you can see, we've got to do a bunch of blending work and change up all of these plates. First things first, clear every single plate that needs to be worked on. I guess technically these plates right over here next to the airstrip need to be worked on as well, because you can see the river is only 4 studs wide, but when I redeveloped these, you can see it's like 6 to 8 studs wide all the way along. So I do need to bridge this river over onto these neighboring road plates. I've been eyeing up this project for quite some time, and I think this is the ultimate solution. Fortunately for me, these are 1.5 base plates. So all I have to do is center it within these two. So that's a total of 3 base plates on one side, just 32 by 32, so probably just make it one big module, right? 32 by 96 long. And then I've got to make another module on this side, which is going to be 16 studs by 96 long, and then I can center the A-frame cabin. And I think it'll look better centered between those other two modules that we have down there that are currently on the high ground, if that makes sense. I figured you didn't need to see me build Mills plates for the 100th time, so I just took care of the Mills plating here. So yeah, we've got some weird ones, that's for sure. This is 3 base plates long. You can see we've got 32 studs right here. That's elevated up to 7 bricks tall. And then down here, it's elevated up to 5 bricks tall. I left this space open for the river that's going to run through, and it's going to have to connect to the other river. So I'm going to have to connect all of that, of course. So that plate pretty much has to be ripped apart. And then we've got the 48 studs by 32 studs on this side here, and that's elevated up to 8 bricks tall, which matches the elevation over here. And over here we have the section which is 96 or 3 base plates long by 16 studs wide, and here it's 4 bricks tall, and that's 32 studs. Then we've got 16 studs open for the river, and then we've got 48 studs over here, which is at 8 bricks tall, and that matches the height of the giant Mills plates that I created back here as well. I just made this one giant piece. Originally I thought I was going to make it 2 different pieces, 48 by 48, but now it's 96 by 48 because it's going to be pretty easy to insert in that spot there, and I figured having one big chunk would make sense. But you can see how much brick, like how many towers I had to make to create these Mills plates. Like it's all brick under there, and that's for all of them. So it consumes a lot of pieces, but it's going to give us that height and that depth that we can work with. So there's still 3 plates that I need to address because of course the A-frame isn't going to be in this like sinkhole. I've got to build that up. So the A-frame plate I'm going to build up so it matches the height of these. And then this one here is going to be weird. It's going to be like a transitional plate because the ridge along the back of the airstrip is like that, where we have the dark bluish gray there. And I've got to make this a transitional plate as well. So this creek is going to have to be widened and meander through, connect here, and then this creek will meander through there, here, and connect to the other sections that we already have built. But this plate and that plate and all of these are going to have to be transitional, and I'm going to have to play around with the height of the A-frame. And when I build the A-frame one, I'm most likely going to just merge it with this one here. So it's going to be 96 by 48 because there's going to be a lot of different heights and transitional heights that we have to work with in there along with the big creek. So I think it's going to be a little easier to make it one big module rather than have it split like that. Starting with the destruction of this plate here, it's got to be rebuilt from scratch essentially. I could have just started with a fresh 48 by 48, but may as well salvage all of those parts. Now I'm laying out some black plate. This is going to be the foundation for the water that's going to flow through this whole area, as you know, that river. It's going to look pretty awesome. I decided to go with black underlying plate because that's how all my rivers are. And the next thing I do is I border it with green brick, and then I start laying all the colorful brick, which is going to support the green mill's work. Using a combination of 4x4 plates and also 16x16s. Oh, I much prefer using 16x16s, but sometimes you need to use those 4x4s just to give the mill's plate a better shape, a more natural shape, because you're not stuck within the parameter of 16x16 studs. But when you're working with height, you always want to try and mix it up as well. So my towers are sometimes 8 bricks tall, sometimes 4 bricks tall, just trying to mix it up, of course, so you blend in the ridges that you create with the different height using brick, slopes, whatever you'd like, even if you want to use a snot technique. Right now I'm just going with the classic brick technique, just using the 2x4, 2x6, 2x2 green bricks, and I'm just blending in the bank of the river. And then topping off those 2x bricks with more green plate and blending in the next ridge, which is, of course, is the higher ground going up against that raised platform that we have supporting the treehouse and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Uh-oh, though, I might be making a mistake here. I really should be placing things in the city more often than I already do, or I should just be building in the city. With this plate all drafted in with the river and the bank, I think I'm ready to move on to the center plates just to try to get those drafted as well and get this water connected across. I just feel like getting the rough draft done for the entire area is more important than adding more details over here to this plate. May as well find out what we're doing in the center there, which of course is the key focus of this area in the city. So I like taking Lego sets like the A-frame cabin and I like placing them in the city. But in order to do that, you've got to put them on a mill's plate and sort of integrate them into the landscaping. And you can see how I just removed the A-frame cabin. I flipped the whole plate upside down and then I peeled it off, revealing all of the colorful brick underneath. This entire plate was done with 4x4 plates. So the amount of underlying brick that I have to use is absolutely insane. Of course, I can't use 16x16s because on the side of the A-frame, there's only 8 studs, and on the back, there's 12 studs. And I want the A-frame cabin to actually be sitting on the stilts that you can see on the bottom there, so it looks like it's integrated into the green plate. So it's not like I want a plate underneath it and jumper it and spot. I want it to be actually part of the mill's plate. So it gets a little bit labor intensive and a little bit part intensive, but I think it's worth it. Maybe what I should have done is just cut a little wood platform and that would have saved me just mountains and mountains of bricks. But this is going to make it level with all of the other plates in the surrounding area. The math is going to be perfect. So I think it's worth it in the end. If you're going to do it, you may as well do it right. Well, there's no denying it, everybody. 8 brick tall mill's plates built with 4x4 topping plate. It's exhausting to build. Oh, it's ridiculous. Totally worth it though. Totally worth it. I'm going to stay determined here. It's okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get her done. Let's do it for the Lego City. Although I am getting tired of putting 2x2 and 1x2 bricks together. My fingers are starting to hurt, but it's totally worth it. It's going to look sick in the end. I'm so excited about getting this project started. And I can't wait to see the end result of the entire countryside put together. It's going to be insane. Well, there we have it. The A-frame cabin plate is done. One more plate to go, and then they'll all be at the same height. All right, we're going to go with the fresh plate protocol here. I'm not going to use that pond. It's no longer going to be in the layout because that river has been increased in width by so much. So there's no room to have a pond over here, which I'm okay with. There's going to be a bridge going over the river. The river's going to have lots of depth. It's going to be super cool. It's actually 16 studs wide. I make it 16 studs so I can build the bank right on top of the black plate. That prevents slopes from getting buried within tile and plate. After I get the black plate laid, I start framing the sides using just green mill's work. And I'm like, man, I really should place all of these modules back in the city before I get too far ahead of myself. So here we go, gonna place them in the city and make sure everything lines up because you just never know when you're working up there. First plate, all right, that looks good. Second plate, uh-oh. My river's a little bit misaligned. I've got to reduce the 16 by 16 plate to an 8 by 16. A-frame cabin looking pretty good. The 16 by 96 module looks pretty good too. The other one by the airstrip there, uh-oh, there's something wrong there as well. Looks like I'm gonna have to rip something apart, but you know what? Lego city building is all about trial and error. Rome wasn't built in one day. There's no way I can get a project done like this in one single day. It's just physically not possible. Well, actually, no, if I don't sleep, then I can get it done, but I just don't think that's healthy. I always like to start big projects like this using the 16 by 16 plates just because there's way less underlaying brick. But sometimes when you use 16 by 16 plates, you get stuck in situations like this. For example, this is a 16 by 16 plate here. And I want to bring that in, like the elevation, I want to bring it closer toward the elevation over here because it's in the way of the airstrip. So that doesn't make any sense. And that's another reason why I like to place things mid-build, which I didn't do today, but that's all right. This won't be hard to fix, and there's a bunch of things like this that I need to fix. For example, all I have to do is just rip out these bricks and extract this 16 by 16 plate eventually, which will be connected to all the other bricks, which all have to come out anyway. And then just put this lower, so this is at like 1 brick height, and then have it go up here. But you'll see like where the 16 by 16 is, it doesn't really match up with the hill here. So I'll have to like adjust this hill or have it so it matches back there and get in here with the 4x4s and just make it work. But for the most part, I try to do it with the 16 by 16s at first, and then after placing it, I'll come in here and I'll fix up little minor things like that just to make it flow better. For example, there's another area over here, and this was a 16 by 16 plate, but it's popping out too far. And right here, you can see it needs to move over a few studs. So I replaced it with the only 8 by 16 that I have. And now I can black plate in here, and we can start to do the rock work so that it matches up with the rock work over here. I'll probably blast out some of this rock work that isn't gonna match up with what we're doing on this side, and some of this lower stuff here too, and just make sure that this river flows together with that. Plus there's like a right angle here that might need to be a little bit adjusted there as well. But I think overall, like the appearance of it is looking pretty good thus far. I think the base layout is there. I love the fact that the A-frame is lifted up and we're at the same height as these buildings over here. There's some blending work that'll have to be done between the two levels, but that's just to be expected. Just come in there with the green brick and put like an angled ridge or something like that. And it just feels good to get everything up at the same height. That was my main goal here today. When I continue to work on this, which of course will be like right away, what I'm gonna do is bring one of my tables down here that has the wheels on the bottom, like the wheels on the legs, and I'm gonna bring a bunch of parts that I need to construct this, and I'm actually gonna construct it right here in the city. Sometimes it's nice to do that because I can't haul this whole area up to my desk. So when I haul a small portion of it up there and I build it, well, it's hard to visualize exactly where it's gonna go. So I think what I should do is continue to work on this area as it sits right here. Then I know, okay, the rock work starts exactly on this stud. I know exactly where it needs to go. I know exactly where this water needs to go. I know how to transition all of this. I already repaired this a little bit, but I need to lower this just because that looks not right. And if I do something like this along here and reduce this by, I don't know, 8 studs or something, so it looks a little more cohesive, then it's gonna make more sense. But it's hard to visualize that when you've got a mess of parts upstairs and however many different modules up there and however many modules down here that connect to it. So in the future, I'll definitely be working down here. As always, thank you so much for joining me on another day of exciting building here in the Lego City as we worked on the countryside together. It's a long way to go, but I think it's off to a great start. Please remember to like, subscribe, and most importantly, have yourselves a fantastic day. Bye for now.